emphasize the greeting of peace. It's very central to, I think, the religious aspect of the conflict that we are talking about. It's also very critical within the political pursuits of this conflict from whichever angle you may be approaching. But peace has to be understood with a good and a healthy approach of justice. There cannot be peace with indignity. There cannot be peace with discrimination. There cannot be peace with hidden agendas. And there cannot be peace with teaming up and beating on the small guy, as it were. First of all, I'd like to commend the presentation that preceded mine. It's informative. There's very good information that you don't come by in the docile and subversive media that serves American interests, American national interests, as they are shaped by the policy of imperium that describes the United States, especially in the part of the world that we are looking at. I'll try to be a little more pointed at some of the aspects of American policy when it comes to Israel. You know, when you speak about American policy and you speak about Israel, there seems to be a built-in blind area that no one wants to come to terms with. And there's always been this argument of is the Israeli component of this alliance the mover and shaker of it, or is the imperial component of this alliance, meaning the American contingent within it, the main shaker and mover when decisions are finally made? That area still continues, I think, to be a give and take area. None of us, I think, are insiders. We're not prevalent at the discussions that are made, classified as they are. So we really can't say with authority who really has the upper hand. Arguments go both ways. Some people will tell you the Zionists are on top of it, and they really dictate to the American government, and the American government doesn't have a choice except to follow orders. And the others will tell you, no, it's actually the imperialists who are using the Zionists and Israel as a cat's claw in the overall policies of the Middle East. And it's really the shrewd imperialists who are taking advantage of a human condition that wants to get itself organized in a social manner in Palestine. So this keeps on going back and forth, which makes it an area that needs more of our attention. We don't need more of the same rhetoric that comes out in the media pertaining to these two forces, and obviously they are forces. Let me say that the United States government, I'm going to try to take a little step back and remind ourselves that the United States government, after UN resolution, the resolution that acknowledged or recognized Israel, Harry Truman, the President of the United States, within 11 minutes after that resolution, immediately recognized the state of Israel. That's an indicator that the affluence and the influence of the yet-to-be AIPAC was in high gear very early, before the 700-pound gorilla, as it is referred to sometimes, that operates on Capitol Hill and swings its weight in the congressional offices, never to vote against Israel or never to enact laws that may damage the interest of Israel. So we're looking at a significant presence of Zionist interest within the United States that goes back some time. It's not a very recent development, as some people would like to believe. Let me also remind ourselves, in trying to know the proportionality of imperialism and Zionism as they relate to each other, that the United States gives Israel, the United States government gives Israel every year more than $3 billion in grants. These are the official grants that go from the United States to Israel. We're not talking about here donations and other channels, financial channels that prop up the Israeli Zionist illegality in the Middle East. This is on the records, it is official, it is overboard, it is public. That amounts almost to $10 million every day. You think about this, our tax money, we just finished doing our taxes, out of that, a huge sum of almost $10 million officially goes to Israel every day. This is more than is given by the United States to all of sub-Saharan Africa. It is more than is given to any other nation state in the world. This would make you think, I hope, that there is some type of internal control mechanism that makes this type of money go to that type of regime, knowing that this type of information does not really circulate. That's very important to be cognizant of. So far, since the establishment of this expansionist, warlike, destabilizing nation-state called Israel, since its establishment, the United States has given more than, once again, on the record, publicly, officially, more than $100 billion out of your and my hard-earned money. And there's no merit and there's no justification for this amount of money going to the bloody regime. I have no qualms. I'm not a politician. I try to look at the issue as it is and call a spade a spade. The Israeli Zionist regime is a monstrosity, and it should not be fed this financial line of money and resources at the rate that it is at. Let me make the point that, I don't want to lose myself because there's so many of these that I tied together. Let me say that there hasn't been, in at least the last 50 years or so, there hasn't been an American official at the highest level that has spoken out publicly, confidently, and forcefully against the Israeli policies that have plunged the area in periodical wars. Seems like there's almost a war that is ignited every decade by this Israeli nation state. And to that, there hasn't been an American president. There hasn't, ever since Eisenhower. Eisenhower was probably the last chief executive in the White House who took issue with the tripartite aggression against Egypt in 1956. And he told this alliance of three states, Israel, France, and Britain, that, enough